don't want to say it again.
All right, for the PEP update, I did a great presentation last week. I'm just waiting for some people to send back some survey questions to me. In this county, we have 16 cases. Jackie and Deb are working tremendously hard on them cases. It is involving some of the school though. So that's my report. I don't have much report this week.
So which school, both schools?
Yes. Yes, I believe it's both schools. Yes, I know definitely Granite. And I think there's a couple, yes, so both schools. I had to think about the kids.
It's
But
15
yes.
cases.
16 cases.
What's the schools doing?
Huh?
What'd you say the schools are doing?
It's involving, there's school age kids
Yeah.
that are, that have COVID. So it's the range now.
Didn't they have some meetings the other night? I heard somebody
There was
say
a couple meetings, yeah. I didn't attend them, Deb did. That's why I know that Kara was gonna be here today to discuss about the schools and all that, so.
One of the debates in Phillipsburg was like over mask use. And I think they have a policy where there's such a high percentage of cases, then they'll require masks. So kind of a phase type thing.
that's for each weekly, then they look into it that way, is that what they're doing?
I assume it's on an ongoing basis.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know the details. I know after Kira had contacted me to add this topic to the Board of Health update, I know 3 grades were shut down in the grade school, and then the school board did call an emergency meeting, and I had heard that she attended that to work with them on some policies, but I don't know any of the details beyond that.
I did not attend the emergency meeting one. So I didn't know all what had come out of that yet. So that was my report.
Anything else? You ever see that KECI news thing I talked about?
I did. I was a shocker to see that.
What is that news thing? What is it?
That was the guy I was talking about, going therapeutics, checking out.
Right, they were doing therapeutic instead of doing vaccines and all that. So it was interesting that Missoula County officials, it was a medical official, was it not? Yeah,
Good
they
dog.
want to do straight therapeutic instead of vaccines and all that. It was,
Maybe not instead of, but in addition to,
right,
and more relying on therapeutics than
right.
When
vaccine.
when I did the shift last week at the hospital, there again in Anaconda, I was told that we are starting, and with patients that I see that tested positive for COVID, they were offered a monoclonal
Mhm.
antibody therapeutics, and I think
Yes.
that's what you were talking about. It's not available yet. I believe it will be in the next week or so.
For Deer Lodge County or
For
Granite
Deer
County?
Lodge County,
Okay, because I know Powell County has already started it.
yes.
Because I've worked cases that they've had the infusion treatment, yes.
So what about Granite?
We haven't heard from Maria if they received that infusion treatment yet.
She might be on.
Is Maria on? She is not,
Nobody's on.
because I know that infusion treatment takes a couple hours.
They say it takes approximately 1/2 hour. You insert an IV, infuse it, and then they like to watch you, at least this is the official policy in the ER, to watch you for approximately an hour for any allergic reactions. What I've been told is that it does help with the severity of the virus. So,
I have a couple cases that I'm working from Deer Lodge County, and they've gone to Powell County. And you have to have a doctor's order for this. They do get the infusion treatment, and then they said the next day, it's like, they have like just a minor cold. I mean, they go in, they have a hard time breathing, they have high temps, and they're coughing to the point where it's just, they can't stop coughing. They get that infusion treatment, and then within 12 hours, it's just like a HIPPO, it's like, wow.
They are,
So it's very impressive of what this treatment is, this infusion treatment.
they are using it for high-risk patients, people with diabetes, obesity, immune compromised systems. So, you know, I haven't taken care of anybody that has had it. There has been patients that were scheduled in the ER at night, and if they were didn't have to come in during the day, they were admitted to the hospital for approximately 2 to 3 hours period of time. But I heard that it is like you, they were having some good responses to it. But they're mostly being offered for high-risk patients at this point.
Wayne?
Well, wasn't there a decision on boosters as well? Maybe the FDA committee? I thought I read that, but they're not recommending unless you're like older and high risk.
For the Pfizer,
Or Pfizer.
right, for the Pfizer, but it's not been fully approved yet, but they are talking about, it. But it is for the high risk, so the elderly, the ones that are immune compromised, yes, but it's,
Not approved yet.
to my understanding, it's not been approved yet.
We do have Dr. Khan on now too.
So great. So
Yeah.
that report's done.
What's that?
I says my PEP report's done.
That it has not fully been approved. The FDA did recommend it for 65. And the booster, the third dose has been approved for at least the last month or more for patients that are on some sort of immunosuppression.
Kira, it's kind of hard to hear you.
Oh, I'm sorry. I might try calling
Now
back.
we can.
That's a lot
We're
better.
good
Is that
now.
better? I have no idea what I did. But yeah, so the booster, just straightforward booster dose is only right now, FDA just approved it for those over 65, and we haven't started giving those doses yet. But the third dose has been approved for at least the last month or more for anybody that has kind of artificial immunosuppression. So meds that are suppressing their immune system.
Okay. Anything else? So now we're on the Board of Health. Take it away.
Basically, I've been, you know, just perusing papers, I did see a Billings Gazette and Great Falls Tribune had a deal where Montana was the highest per capita rates of infection of COVID virus. So there again, you know, Kira may be able to address this more. You know, with the political situation in Montana, we still, you know, are under that House Bill 7702 that says we can't dictate policy. But in my opinion, what our health board should be advising is that we still, would highly encourage vaccination and mask wearing and hand washing and gelling if, hand washing is not possible. And social distancing, those are about the only things that, the health board and, in my opinion, Granite County is allowed to do. I think you're going to continue to see rises in infection rates in the state of Montana with our current environment that we are.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but that's my understanding on the House Bill 702 is not that we can't dictate policy, it's that we can't dictate policy based on vaccine status. So
Correct.
we can
Right,
still make
right.
recommendations about
Sure.
quarantine. We can still make recommendations about public health. We just can't delineate it based on vaccine status.
Right. So,
That's what I would suggest we do is just continue to encourage.
So the
Right.
reason that I
That's
had
what-
Billy put this on the agenda is that I just wanted to make sure that so when we had made our decision a couple of weeks ago about saying we weren't going to mandate any sort of quarantine, we were simply going to recommend to families and to patients what the best guidance is, and it's up to them to then make decisions. And we weren't going to mandate masks or recommend masks in the school, that we were going to leave that up to the school. I wanted to make sure, because I've been at the school board meeting the last couple of weeks, and I wanted to make sure that you were all aware that the school is saying public health is managing the quarantine recommendations, and they are not making any sort of requirement. So realistically, between the two boards and everybody's recommendations, we could see a kid that is positive, and there's 3 other kids that live in that house, and the Delta variant is incredibly infectious, and they're almost guaranteed to have it. And they have no symptoms. And if the parents chose to, they could send that kid to school without a mask. And there's nobody anywhere that's making any sort of requirement to do anything different than that. And I just want to make sure everybody understands that. And if that's the decision as a board, I don't agree with it. But we need to understand what decision we're making.
Blaine,
So I let this is Blaine. I let both superintendents know that the schools can establish their own policies on masking and so forth, quarantine. So
I know, but they're not willing to do that.
Yeah, but for them to put it back on this board, I think would be kind of disingenuous. Because they were told they could.
Didn't we have one, but when we were having a public meeting on this, we all agreed on that, to let the schools handle their own.
And that day, I emailed both superintendents and let them know that, so they just say, oh, the Board of Health saying we can't, or if they said the Board of Health says we can't do it, that'd be incorrect.
I was just saying it because I did what she said, you don't have, I just looked at one, we're thinking, we all agreed on it.
Yeah, and they were notified.
I understand that. But the decision was also kind of on the presumption that they were hopefully going to make the right decision, and they're not. And as the Board of Health, we, I think, have a responsibility.
Well, I think we should just recommend that they be quarantined, no matter if they're vaccinated or not. I mean, just say everybody. I mean, in that situation, everybody should be quarantined. I mean, we don't even have to ask if anybody's vaccinated. Then we wouldn't discriminate, right?
I agree.
So we could recommend that to the school boards, that they quarantine somebody in that situation, or the kids,
Close contact.
you know.
okay, let me ask
See
you a
what I'm saying?
question. So you would highly recommend the schools to quarantine. The Board of Health is highly recommending, and we can't mandate, but how
Well,
do
we
go
could, we're
about-
just choosing not to.
We're just choosing not to. So what do we do if it gets worse and worse and worse? Do we keep saying, well, we're choosing not to, but do what you think is right, and people don't seem to be doing what they think is right? So this is something that, here we go again, we're starting all over from last year, and everything's rising.
Yeah, if you just quarantine everybody, whether they're vaccinated or not, you're not discrimination. There's no discrimination there. See, so you just say, okay, school board, you better be quarantined, better quarantine those kids. And don't even,
Maybe we should have one of each district school board member come in, talk with them, just tell them, explain, this is the way we're putting it here out, you guys, you have to take care of this, otherwise it's coming down where it's gonna be mandated.
I mean, let's get back to it, just common sense to quarantine. I mean,
It
just,
seems like if you don't have them.
And she's right, the Board of Health can require it. My thought is that's what the school board was elected to do, is make those hard decisions.
Yeah, exactly.
So they don't have it's more of a, commission is local, this Board of Health is local, but the school board is even more local. We're right there on, so, but yeah, maybe it gets to the point that you have to
You go
do
through the
requirements.
superintendent, have each one of them come in and they can sit down with them and then tell them it's coming back, and they can take it to their board.
That'd be a good idea.
So
Or
Kara,
just send them a letter.
what what are the schools doing right now?
So
That's-
right now, it's basically if your mom told you to wear a mask, put on a mask. And there's no, at least I can speak to, there's no mask requirement. There is we think it's probably a good idea, but we're not going to make you put one on. So there's no masking in the school that's required. And at least in the classrooms that I know about, the school, the teacher is basically saying, go ahead and put a mask on if your mom said you should.
Well, I know, may I answer that comment? I know that my granddaughter is on volleyball and her coach told them they must wear masks. And she wears a mask to school, and this is at Granite. So the coach is saying they wear masks. I
Yeah,
don't know if they're going back to the parents and the parents are refusing or not. I don't know.
but that's not coming from the classroom. That's not
Right.
coming from the school. That's coming from
Right.
the coach so that even if there's an outbreak, they can go and play volleyball.
Well, I think that if there's COVID at home, they should stay home. Heck
So,
with a mask.
So I guess my concern is that I don't know right now that there is anybody, and Deb, you can probably speak to this better than I, about who is ultimately responsible for making that recommendation to the school and saying, this kid is exposed and may not return to school until Tuesday, period. And supersedes the ability for a parent to make a bad decision. Because I don't think right now there's anything in place to prevent that. And if mom says, I don't think that was that big of an exposure and I'm going to send him to school anyway, I
So
don't
the
think
Board of
there's
Health-
anybody making any strict recommendations about that.
The Board of Health can do that.
Well, I think we should. I do. My opinion. I mean, it's getting to the point now, it wasn't this way in the schools last year. The kids weren't getting it last year. Now the kids are getting it. Yeah, with the variants.
There was some in the schools, 'cause
I know, but
yeah,
it wasn't
not-
like it
yeah,
is
not-
now. I mean, I'm not saying it wasn't, I'm just saying that people are very lax right now, thinking that, oh, it's okay, we're not gonna have to worry about it.
Getting more in schools now because we're having schools. Where last year we didn't have school, you know, a lot of people stayed home and that. I mean, you know, they
Well, they
shut
still
it down,
have-
but now it's coming back where, I mean, we got sports going on, we got everything, we turned and gone back to normal. And yeah, it's gonna get the schools.
But there's also a huge number of
that-
kids that don't need to be out. You know, the kids that were out of school all last week, there were like 5 kids that were positive. The rest of the kids that didn't go to school all last week, had they all been in masks, would have all been in the classroom, and they weren't. And so I guess my hope would be that if we are really, I hate to say militant, but kind of, about saying, if you are exposed and you weren't in a mask, then you can't come to school, you can't play sports, you can't do any of the stuff that you want to do. And if you were in a mask, then you don't need to quarantine, because that's the CDC recommendation, that if everybody's masked, you don't have to quarantine. Then it works as some negative reinforcement to say, well, maybe we should all just wear a mask and then we don't have to deal with this, because the school board is not willing to mandate a mask.
And I think this does not need to be political. We need to think of our children.
I agree.
And if the health board can do this, I feel that we should do this.
I believe Leanne Holmes, the director of the public health, is online too.
She is.
Hi there, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify a couple things, and Blaine, you can certainly jump in and correct me if I'm wrong, but so the schools, I think you're completely accurate. The schools can, it really, the way the law is, the school boards are able to make the decisions regarding masking and all that. And that's why we just had this huge, 7-8 hour meetings in Anaconda about the masking. But public health and that Board of Health can absolutely require quarantine. And that's what we've done is we just require quarantine regardless of vaccine status, like Chuck said. And I would support that 100%. That's what we're doing. And then we communicate with the school and just tell them, these students, we don't give them any detail about whether they're a case or a contact or whatever. We just say that these students cannot go to school. But really, I think the Board of Health just needs to give the Public Health Department in Granite County the authority to quarantine, not recommend, but quarantine, and then that's enforceable by the health officer. So say a family refuses to go or, refuses to stay home and quarantine, then, the health officer for the health of the community actually does have the authority to say, no, you're not going to go to school.
This is Lisa. For how long are they recommending the quarantine?
Okay, so it's, this is a little confusing because the guidelines have changed but we're going regardless of vaccine status. So if you are exposed to a positive case, you quarantine 7 days. If you have no symptoms, 7 days and have a negative test, or 10 days if you do not test. And then it's 14 days if you're symptomatic. But if you're symptomatic, you should obviously be tested, but some people refuse to be tested. So then it's 14 days.
So 7 days, even if you've had a negative COVID test.
Yes. Yeah. Well, you test on the 7th day.
And the caveat to that is going to be that we just got an email from at least the Granite County Hospital that they are not able to do rapids on that 7-day. They don't have the volume of testing to be able to do that. So basically kids are going to be out. Those tests, at least in our office, and I think at Granite County, are taken at least 48 hours to come back from the state. And so I think those kids realistically are going to be out for 10 days, period.
That's what we're seeing in Anaconda as well.
Or, I mean, another option is we can go through the state DES, or, there's a lot of programs for the schools. Our school nurse in Anaconda is doing most of the testing. And we do have, if you remember, commissioners, we have extra money in that VEP grant because we saved you money by, having Jen do 10 hours a week versus paying that contract wage. So we could pay somebody to do testing at the schools or for school kids with the rapids.
Is there any other public comment? Gail?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. I just want to say that I would hope that public health would make some definite decision to guide the public health board would make definite decision to guide public health, because they are the ones that talk with the parents or with the superintendent. And I get that all of this is very confusing, but I think that there needs to be definite guidelines that the whole county with the schools follow. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Elena?
Okay, thanks. I didn't understand the first 5 minutes that you had there was no public comment then. Did I hear correct that there was 16 kids that have been tested positive in Granite County?
There's 16 positive cases in Granite County.
Positive what? Cases. Okay, thank you. And you said you met with the schools in Anaconda?
Is that a question?
Yes.
Deb-
Well,
Deb and Kira and all them met with the schools in Granite County.
in Granite County.
Right, there was an emergency meeting with Granite County in the last week and the week prior to that, I believe.
That's interesting because I didn't see anything in the newspaper regarding a public meeting. I don't even know that there were meetings going on. You mentioned grant money, that you have grant money, you being Anaconda, correct?
The grant money is for Granite County.
Thank you. So if we had our own FEP, whatever you want to call it, instead of Tri-County, and we would have had our own grant money, and we could make our own decisions with that. It seems to me that you're basing everything on what's happening over in Anaconda or Deer Lodge instead of what's going on here. What did the schools here? What did the schools here say?
So Lena, this is playing, the FEP monies come directly to Granite County, and then we contract with them on Deer Lodge. But Dr. Khan went to that school board meeting last Friday. She can give an update on that.
Which school bid, Drummond or Phillipsburg?
Phillipsburg.
And what did the schools decide?
What was that?
What did the schools decide?
Kira,
Nothing.
yeah,
I understand that they decided nothing.
So the school board basically decided that they would continue to recommend masks, but not require them. And that the superintendent had the capability of requiring masks based on the current cases in the school and in the county, but has not done so despite high numbers.
So what's the school numbers?
So as of the meeting last week, there were 10 in the school.
10 in the school alone.
Correct.
Oh, that's interesting. And HB 702, I believe, applies to county, city, and town governments.
Yes.
Thank you, Blaine. So therefore, if the schools don't want it, that's fine, and the county can't make a mandate that the schools do anything, because 702 applies, and it just doesn't apply to the vaccine passport, if you want to call it that.
But Board of
That-
Health
that-
can't.
But we can highly recommend that they quarantine contacts.
Well, quarantining, you can recommend anything. Common sense, if you don't feel good, you stay home. And then when you feel better, you go to school. Are they actually testing the people that come down with this, or they're just saying, stay home?
I asked them.
So Lena, this is like, when Leanne Holmes got on, she was accurate in what she said there, what the Board of Health can do. It's just the Board of Health's decision on whether they're gonna.
So the board and health can make any a decision regarding guidelines and a recommendation, but that's it, bottom line. The schools can't mandate anything. And if they
Yeah.
mandate something, they'll have to offer different accommodations to the kids who don't want to wear masks. And I think that's what the schools in Granite County are trying to avoid, since it did more problems than alleviate problems by denying kids classroom.
I think
training.
you're right, that that's what the school is wanting, but they can require masks, and they can require quarantining. So that, they can, they were given, under the law, they have that, but the issue is, does the Board of Health want to then go ahead and make requirements for them, which the board can do.
Well, if they require, again, they're gonna have to offer different accommodations to the kids that don't want to wear a mask. I believe that's also in 702, they have to make other accommodations, just like local businesses. They're gonna have to make, if they're gonna request it, they're gonna have to make a different accommodations. Am I right?
I think so.
Thank you.
So is there gonna be a motion then to recommend? I'd go for quarantine, not mask.
So Dr. Khan, can you explain what our motion should be if we're choosing to? I think we need to not just highly recommend. I think we need to say if you're positive, you're quarantined and you wear masks.
All the
And-
positive people have been
They're
quarantined.
quarantined.
We're talking about the exposed.
And exposed.
I don't know if she's still on, she had to see patients. I'll send her a request to unmute, but
Well,
Or
I-
Leanne.
I can explain to her what she's
Okay.
wanting. Is that she wants it to be a Board of Health requirement that if you're a close contact, that you be quarantined for the seven days with the negative test or 10 days with no test.
Yes.
That's what,
Yes.
she's wanting that to be a requirement.
Close contact.
Yeah,
yes.
a close contact.
Blaine, Blaine, this is Leanne. I just want to make one more thing is remember that the CDC guidelines change often. So I think I would recommend that you make a motion to follow that you require, allow public health to quarantine and follow CDC guidelines with regards to isolation and quarantine. Rather than putting 7 and 10 days in there, because if it changes tomorrow, we'd be calling an emergency meeting.
So is
Then
that,
why waste a test? If somebody has not had symptoms for 7 days and we have issues with trying to get a hold of tests, why would we waste a test on day 7 when they're asymptomatic, they've been quarantining for 7 days? Like, common sense to me says, probably don't have COVID. Why would we wait 7 days and make them take a test when we're already struggling with not having enough tests? To me, it's like, it just seems more common sense that if you've been exposed, to see if you have symptoms in a couple of days. If you start to develop symptoms, then go get the rapid test. That's what it's there for. But this constant testing, what I'm understanding is we're running out of tests, and yet we're constantly testing. So where's the common sense in that? I'm sorry, this is Lisa, one of your board members. And 7 days is, in my estimation, a long time for a kid to be out of school when they're not sick. It's a tough call. It's a tough call. Because then when are you ever gonna have kids? If you've got a large family, that family's kids are always gonna be out of school.
So my recommendation is just based on the CDC recommendations. And you really do need to wait the full 10 days if you're not going to be tested. So irregardless, you cannot go back to school after day 7 if you have no symptoms. That we really want to encourage following the guidelines that are set for us by the
Yes.
state of Montana Department of Public Health and the CDC.
So here's the thing too, common sense. Yeah, should we ask our people, do you have common sense? No, I mean, if they're quarantined for 10 days then they have in those 10 days to be able to request the test. I mean, this is something, this isn't frivolous. This is dangerous again.
But why
So
has-
your opinion is you don't think they should. My opinion is we should follow the CD guidelines.
Well, if there's no, that's not true.
Really? You don't think we should follow them?
That's not what I said.
Well, you just said it, that they shouldn't have to
I'm
test in
just
7
saying
days.
that if there's no symptoms, why are we wasting tests?
If they
If they've
tested
been
positive,
quarantined- No, that's not what I said. Not what I said. If somebody has been exposed in a family and they are quarantining for 7 days and they have no symptoms, why are we wasting a test on day 7
Well-
that says that they're negative? That's all I'm saying.
Can you
We are
answer that
getting a
question?
Shortage of tests. Everybody's talking about this shortage of tests. So why have somebody who's been quarantining for 7 days, who has no symptoms on day 7, but they can't go back to school until they have a negative test? It makes no sense, common sense to me.
I think that,
Well, because it's not about common sense, it's about how this virus is working. And very often what we've seen in the last 18 months is that people don't always estimate their last contact with the individual exactly right. So we really, they figure that the 7 to 10 days is set for that margin of error. And I just want to clarify, there is not a shortage of the rapid tests in the state of Montana. There is a shortage of people and ability and the PCR tests at the hospital. But what I really would like the Board of Health to give let the public health department, let Deb and Jackie and I and Jen do what we need to do. We know what we're doing. I really would like, I would recommend, not what I like, I'd recommend that the Board of Health give the authority to public health to do their job in accordance with the CDC recommendations. And it's not the Board of Health's concern whether there's enough tests. And in my opinion, and I think most people in the Department of Public Health and the nation would say testing on day 7, according to the recommendations, is not a waste.
and this is Mike Larchick. I'm agreeing with you on that, and I think what probably needs to be said is with the testing, you will see more empirical data that says, okay, this guy is positive or this guy is negative and can go back to work. So I do see that it is probably advantageous to do the testing on the 7th day, just to have that data and to say, this is what's going on. With that said, I would think that it would be appropriate for us to make a motion to accept the CDC guidelines and go ahead and, require them to speak.
So if Jerry, you could call for the motion.
So can I get a clarification what the motion's going to be? Is it going to be wearing masks, or is it allowing the public health to do our job to protect the kids and everything and do what Leanne just said?
All of the above.
However,
We're
we're
the
supposed to say it.
profession. They're the
Yeah,
profession.
Jen,
I don't know that she's recommending on masks for you.
no, Jen, masking is a separate issue, and that must be addressed at the school board level.
Right.
I don't see no problem with letting them have, doing your job. You guys are the professionals. I mean, this is why we have you. You know this stuff. We don't. I mean, not saying we don't, but really, if we are, not everybody. And you know, I'll follow with their motion, and then, like you said, the mask is separate.
So
Yeah.
how does HB 702 come into that?
We don't discriminate who's vaccinated, who's not. That's it. We don't
Exactly,
discriminate,
yeah.
nothing. Everybody's treated equally, vaccinated or not, you're treated equally.
That's what it's- that's how we-
Right. And
I
with
feel-
that's the way it needs to be. And with the breakthrough cases that we're seeing in the state with the Delta variant, it actually is a good idea anyway, regardless of vaccination status. We have several people that have been vaccinated that have tested positive.
Better
This
to
is
be
Lisa
proactive than
again.
play
I have
catch
a
up.
question about how do you know it's the Delta variant? Because I've also been told that we in the state of Montana are not specifically testing all the time for that variant. We're just doing rapid tests for the most part. And you're either positive or negative, and that's what I was told. Personally by our county nurse, whoever that was that I talked to, so that we aren't testing for the Delta variant. So how do we know what that Delta variant is? Because
I think
In
we
the-
just assume
Right.
that it's Delta variant.
Right. In the state of Montana, the number of tests, they sequence a certain number of tests at the state lab because not everybody's doing rapid testing. And so they send the samples to the lab, and last week 100% of the samples tested for the variant, the Delta variant.
Okay, we're gonna have to move on. Could you
Thank you.
make that concise? And
I make a motion that we accept this, we can, accept the CDC guidelines as far as, mask wearing and quarantine, patients who are tested positive, with either the Delta variant or the coronavirus.
I would say, this is how I would put it, is I would make the motion to allow the public health to do their job,
And I'm
right?
not being rude, that's just.
Right, to make the decision of what's best for the county for the COVID.
Being you guys are the
But
professionals.
I don't
I don't
know
know
that you
how you
want
would
that,
wanna word that.
broad. I think
but
you
can we
want-
leave the mask out of it?
Yeah.
Yeah,
we
the
can
mask
just
is
be-
gonna be left out.
Follow CDC guidelines on quarantining, subject to House Bill 702.
Okay, we're gonna have to move on. So Elena, real quick, please.
Okay, real quick. All I'm hearing is a lot of confusion all around. We go with the CDC recommendations, yes. Giving full authority to the public health department, no. And if CDC changes their mind daily, gee whiz. An hour from now, it may be different. You want to drive everybody crazy? No, just say you're going to go along with the CDC recommendations, whatever they are, period. No full authority to the Board of Health. And there was a woman speaking who was there, and I didn't hear who she was, but I agree with her. I don't see her in the camera, but I agree with her. There are no testing for Delta, okay? And common sense, I'm sorry, common sense, if you don't feel good, you do what you used to do. You stayed home. And in 3 or 4 days, you felt better, you go to work, you go to school. If you don't feel better, then maybe you've got a problem and you go to your doctor. I don't know what's so complicated with that. For the record, thank you.
Well, I don't think the people will have full power if they have to go through HB 702.
Yeah, so follow CDC guidelines on quarantining, subject to House Bill 702. That's what I think would be the.
I'll second.
Or whom, okay, that's your
Okay, we're gonna have to
motion.
move on. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Yeah.
So is that allowing us to quarantine the close contacts? Okay. Thank you all. Have a pleasant day.
Well, if this is gonna put the schools where they'll be in conformance, then we need to do that. If they're not gonna listen and not gonna do it, and just the public health, make the public health be the bad guy, then I guess the public health has to be the bad guy.
They're gonna
Yep,
put it
and we
on
will.
all-
We'll be the
Well,
bad guy.
still,
I'll let them
now we're
know.
going back.
Right.
How are you gonna make somebody do it?
We're gonna tell them to stay home and they're not allowed in school. That's the biggest thing. We don't want to spread in school. So we're not gonna allow them to go to school. They're gonna stay home. You know, that's what we're gonna do.
Well, ultimately, people aren't following what they say, they're gonna have to come to me, basically, so.
Yeah.
And I respect you guys' decision. Don't agree with it, but I'll respect it.
Thank
You don't
all.
agree with it?
No, I'm for.
Well, he's not
I'm
part of
for-
the
I'm-
board, so we can disagree.
I think I should just let the schools deal with it, but that's my own opinion, and I'm.
But they
I'll
won't.
Respect you guys.
But they won't. Well, I understood it.
Right, it's tricky.
But I'll.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Okay.
We go over on this.
Okay, now we're on, Paul Alt, and he called me and said he had to take somebody to the airport, and,
The guy that brought the new truck,
yeah, requested.
What?
the guy that brought the new snow.
Oh, I thought you said wreck the truck.
So anyway, he said that they're mowing grass to beat the band and
Filling in the stuff up Rock Creek, crack sealing,
do what?
crack sealing up Rock Creek.
Oh,
They
okay.
were down to about 8 or 7 miles.
Hmm.
And coming back
Are
down.
they done hauling millings?
Been done forever.
Okay, well, because that last claim came in and they thought it was out of millings, and because the milling budget is now in gas tax is all expended.
We haven't hauled millings, we don't have any. They've been hauled.
Okay, but I'm just asking, millings are
Yeah, we
down.
don't have them.
Okay,
What they were hauling lots was sand.
yeah, well, that's what they took it out of millings
Oh,
because they
yeah,
thought
no,
it was millings, but they corrected that, so I'm just wondering if we're done hauling millings. We got it all hauled.
Yep. Good.
Thank you.
Oh, so is he supposed to post a letter on that?
Yeah, I brought it today because I thought he would be here.
Okay, maybe we should call him and tell him he has to post that letter up on the trailer. On red line.
Maybe it's even moved by now, but yeah, it'd be good to post it.
Did we resend it certified, right? And was received, right?
I haven't gotten an email receipt yet. I gotta check the clerk recorder's office to see if it went to them now. But yeah, I sent it certified last week.
So I mean, you went in
Do
and
you-
checked the.
You have his number there? Paul? Wait,
What's that?
yep. Could you get a hold of Paul real quick and just,
Oh, I did.
he can
You
call in
haven't
or
checked
just tell him he has to post that letter up there.
So you do electronic certification, is that what you're saying, Billy?
Yes.
Okay.
Hey, can you call in? I'll wait for me heard.
Granite County Commission,
Good morning.
good morning.
Yeah, Paul, we just want to mention that you need to go up, pick up a letter and post it on that trailer up on Red Lion, that they have, has to be removed.
Okay.
So,
On the trailer?
Now, you gotta stop here and Billy has it, you need to take it up and place it on the
Okay.
trailer.
Yeah, just tape it on there somehow, if the trailer's still there.
We already sent him a letter and stuff, so it might be gone.
I will check on it today.
Okay,
One other quick thing is, you guys got the invoice, the quote on that, on Brad's truck with the inspector.
the one that Sarah, it was on our email. Hello?
What,
He's calling.
Hello?
go ahead.
Try that again. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was saying, you guys got a letter on that quote for the injectors on Brad's truck?
Yes, fuel injectors went out on Brad's side, so,
Oh,
yes. Sarah had it
And
sent it.
anyway, that,
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say that the quote said it's 11,000 something,
yeah,
but they never took off the 2,300 for the core charge.
for the what?
But,
Core
I mean,
charge on,
there's
fuel injectors.
What
They-
truck is that?
What year truck is that?
oh,
03.
Is that? Oh, that's a lot of money.
Now they gotta break it down for the head and all that, fuel injectors. I mean, it's a long break. What do you do? Park the truck or fix it? This is where everybody gets upset. We find new trucks, but this is the problem. These trucks are 20 years old. You know, and we ran them and ran them and it's just, yeah, what do you do? Fix it or don't? That's pretty much what you're saying, ain't it?
Yeah, I mean, we really don't have any choice but to fix it. I mean, we have to have it.
So when
So-
it's in the maintenance budget, it's in that there's $150,000 in maintenance that to fix and repair equipment.
Yeah,
So I don't
yeah,
know.
we have the money to fix it. I just wanted to make sure everybody was aware of it.
It was just,
Yeah.
we didn't get permission to fix it. Is why we
So you're
called.
saying it's less than 11,000 then?
It's
9,000?
gonna be less than, it's gonna be around 9,500, so figure 10,000 probably.
Wow.
But what do? You have that or you go buy another truck at 100,000. So what do you do?
Okay, so we're
Go
all,
ahead and fix it.
we're all aware.
We are aware.
So we gotta move on.
Okay.
We gotta move on then. So that's all I had.
All right, sounds good. I'll take care of that red line.
Okay,
Thanks.
sound good, thanks.
Bye.
You bet. Thanks. Bye.
See, you gotta pay a core charge because they take them fuel injectors, once they pull them out, they try, they make sure and save them, they send them in and get them rebuilt.
Hmm.
If you don't do that, then we get charged that extra $2,500 to $3,000. But we don't, you know, we can't do that stuff.
Okay, we gotta move on. Elena's got her hand up. Elena,
I know you have to move on, but this is on the agenda. I don't understand. 9:35, it said Road and Bridge weekly report. What did that have to do, talking about money and repairs to a truck, about the weekly report? That's all I have to,
because it. Okay, we're on Georgetown Lake Outflow. Looks like the last week before we hit two.
Did
The
you read
2-foot
Dave
level.
Almond's report there? It said they were, only putting out 27.
Yeah.
But, by what the drought and everything, I mean, I know it's not good, but it's not that bad. I mean, it's, we're getting down there, but you think, like you said, next week we start cutting back. So I think all the ranchers are done paying and they're pretty much done.
How do we get them, all of them to agree to basically cut off early? If That's what,
I think you have to go through first and put through that whole wheel.
Well, the issue you got with says 30 CF in the first quarter, says 30 CFS during the irrigation season through October 15th. And then there's 2 foot rules. So you got, they're gonna potentially be contradictory here. But ultimately, I think 30 CFS is gonna have to trump here, but
Bauman said to try to get the ranchers to agree to shut her off early.
They're
Not- Yeah, no, I'm sorry.
Right now, they're trying to soak the fields for pasture. I mean, it's one of them, you know, there's so many involved in this that you can't get everybody to agree. And I think what we've been at is done good. Sure, this year's old, it's probably one of the lowest times it's gotten in quite a while, but look how dry it is. And starting to get, there's snow up there, we're gonna start getting moisture. I think we've done good, whether it's recreation or whatever, I think we've done good. We supported everybody and I really do.
So it's less than a month before we can drop.
Yeah.
And then you go
October
down to
15th.
what?
The 15th.
Down to 15?
well, there's no exact amount. I think I believe there's a minimum of 10 for inflows. But usually you guys have cut like years like this, if we're cut it down to try to
Build it
Build it
back
back
up,
up.
because we're looking in this for next
So
year
what,
right away.
like, in less than a month, what would you be cutting down to?
Well, I think a person's gonna have to go to half right away. 15, just that we're at 27, he's saying, because of the gates and now, but we're still basing it on the 30. So if we went to 15 and start filling it up, like, you know, what else can we do? We gotta work with the whole county. It's not just about there or here. It's the whole thing.
a lot of factors.
So looking at the weather, and it did frost today, I think that we should keep it the same, like you said, and
We don't have any choice.
we don't really have a
Is
choice.
that your motion?
I make a motion that we keep 30,
Down with the same.
keep the same.
Next section.
Any public comment? Don't see any. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
I know it ain't good stuff, but I mean, seriously, for what we've had to deal with, the weather and the wind and that. We're lucky, yeah.
No, I agree. Yeah, it's
Just so
bad and
many
Yeah.
it's not
Yeah.
that bad yet, but
So many people involved in it, sure, the people who want to recreation and people. Lives.
And hope for lots of moisture.
It's the remainder of that bill that we never,
Did you
I
make
never
it?
received. I got it, so.
Blaine, did you make it in?
I think so.
And then we'll check it. Did you give each one of them?
No, I was going to.
you got a pen. A pen ran out.
All that name signing.
This is some Facebook chatter that was going on to prepare you for people that may come in during the ambulance session.
I got this stuff last night, I was talking about.
You see it? I don't know.
Okay, now we're gonna go with Catherine Foley for the architect discussion and decision of the courthouse capital improvements, and part of that time will be off. Catherine, okay. You wanna come on up here for a minute? And then we'll be off when we're out touring, so.
You just gotta state your name and who you are.
Oh, I'm Catherine Foley. I'm with Gavin Hanks Architects in Missouri. And I'm from Paul.
Thank you for coming so quick.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So I came to find out what you guys want, so that I can put together a proposal for our fees. And you can let me know if we can even do it, so.
can you amend the plans we already have that we already paid for, or do you start? over?
I would need to talk to A&E Architects and see how they feel about that.
Even though we paid them for them, it's still, you have to check this.
I still have to check with them. I need to see, make sure that they got paid by you. And that they're willing, if they're willing to share.
They pay ours after we paid for
Well,
it.
They've been paid, but there was an invoice that they sent here
They
for
sent
a few
me the other day,
thousand.
yeah, and I've asked for what that invoice is for, and I'm waiting for details on what that invoice is for, but we got the other day, yeah. I have no idea what it's for, so I've asked. Just recently, like a week or two ago, and it is for bidding and negotiations, it's for $10,000. No, because I asked what it was for. We haven't done any work with them in over a year. They said it was for bidding and negotiations.
Oh, the bathroom was a bit a year ago. I think it was like Sky Eye, there was only like one.
So it's surprisingly.
Yeah, and she said that sometimes they wait a long period of time because they only bill it once it hits a certain point or a certain price point. So that could be what happened, and then since it had sat for so long, they were like, oh, we should bill this. But I don't know, she's looking into it, just like that.
Is that something that is normal? That we
That's,
put a bid out, then we still pay them more money?
Well, if they did work for you during the bidding process, they
Oh, I
would
see.
have it
Okay.
done for you. It is weird that it took so long, but maybe in a bigger company, like wait, till we get it to them now.
he was gonna, so Paul thought that since the county rejected that bid, they had to then change plans up a little. And my opinion was that was not a reasonable bid, so it was Sky High, so I disagreed that you didn't have to change the plans to rebid it. But I'm not aware that he did any like amendments to that plan.
We never heard from them.
One of the things of his plans to me seems so complex, I mean, it seems to be simplified, that's one thing we're looking at. Simplify a little.
Okay, Dick,
I would like to know whether or not there's a report that's been prepared on the walkthrough. And I guess I would also like to request that the participants in the meeting speak into the microphone. It's very difficult to understand what they're saying.
okay. Thanks. We're gonna go off now anyway. We got a tour of the building,
There was no report.
so we're gonna go off now. Okay, we're back on for the Phillipsburg and Drummond Volunteer Ambulance Association's updates.
Did I just hear updates that you're on the ambulance?
How's it going?
So who's first? Who wants to come on?
So are we talking about Phillipsburg and Drummond, or what are we talking about?
don't know.
So I'll get right started. When I call, what's that?
I'm gonna give you a microphone.
Why is that?
People can hear you.
Because
So when I asked to be put on, can you hear me now?
They want to know your name.
Frank L. Prince, Drummond Ambulance President. So when I called to be on the agenda, I put it as myself and Drummond Ambulance, not Phillipsburg and Drummond.
Mhm.
So I don't want to talk necessarily about Phillipsburg Ambulance at all. So I wanted it separated. So whatever. So I guess our concerns are what is happening with the other ambulance service, Eagle ambulance. Does it look like it's gonna be viable option, or and we still are volunteer ambulance in the county? I'm just trying to look out ahead for 6 months at the end of the budget. And we just kind of would like to know kind of what you guys' thoughts are as far as that goes.
Kind of regard whether we have a contract or just see where we're sitting.
Yeah,
Is that
just-
what you're trying to-
yeah, just so if per se, they are able to be a viable business for themselves and they keep this ongoing, then are we just gonna dissolve the volunteer ambulance? Or other case, they couldn't make it work and now you need our volunteer service back.
I understand what you're saying. I don't think there was ever the intention ever to dissolve.
Right. I don't necessarily think that, but what I guess at the one time, we were kind of thinking we didn't know where our budget was going. So did we need to, it's kind of like a trial run. So I guess that's what I'm kind of at is before this year is up, just kind of have a heads up what's.
Yeah, I don't think we can make that call yet until we see what Eagles
And that
doing.
would be up to the public. I mean, if the public felt that they did not want a volunteer ambulance because you've got 2 different ambulances districts and taxes are paid in the Drummond area and Phillipsburg area for those ambulances, and there was never any intent not to still keep a volunteer ambulance. It's just that we were having problems with the ambulances, and maybe not so much Drummond, but Phillipsburg was having a problem making runs. And this was the big deal with the other private ambulance coming in, is wanting to come in, and we gave, I guess, our blessing. We said, okay, yes, you can come in, with no intention of ever getting rid of the ambulances. That would be a public opinion and a public decision. Do you see what I mean?
Because they're a district.
Right.
Well, or into separate.
You know what I'm saying? Your budget's still there.
And are you still making runs?
No.
Because you can't make them, or because they beat you to it, or what?
So under our impression that I called in and for the Zoom meeting, Eagle was present. And then I got the minutes, and it doesn't say it in the minutes, which is too specific, I believe, is why it wasn't in the minutes. But if the dispatch page went out and Drummond ambulance could respond, Eagle would stand down.
Exactly.
And they have never yet. Never. We got to a call, no specifics, and they were there already. Well, sure, they should be, but we'd already called in.
See, and that was the deal when we first set this up. This should have been in minutes that you guys were called first no matter what. And they would just be on ready to go. And that's the way it was set up.
Well, it was like 5 minutes, they would go, wouldn't it? I mean, they weren't waiting around forever.
About minutes, but it was set up that they, and volunteer was called first. That's why we were dissolving or doing none of that, but they get the first call.
And see, that's never
And then if
happened.
they can't make.
They said they would roll, but then they would then, yeah, they would stand down, so that's.
I understand it was very,
And it's never happened yet. You have a little bit of problem with dispatchers and sheriff's office. That's been solved. As far as that goes. So there's a little strain on the service then.
I'm not sticking up for them or not, but they probably, because they weren't here when we had it, you know, maybe we should have had a better, another public meeting or something where we, making this out. Everybody realized what really was going on. Instead of just, you know, they want somebody to show up. The dispatchers, they're probably just going by.
Well, no,
Yes.
yeah, like I said, those issues have been solved and they were solved right away. That was, but I mean, just as far as people being frustrated, not going. But just the fact that, you know, this is called Wayne earlier. Looking for a closed session on this deal, but I don't want to do closed sessions. There's enough out there. There's a lot of stuff I want to say, but I'm not saying.
If it's a personal thing, you have the option to close it. Right, Blaine, isn't it? If it's a names or it's not, I mean, a personal thing.
Not if he's talking about somebody else.
But you could talk to you guys individually about it, the concerns, but unless it's like a privacy matter.
No, and I don't want to talk about it. Anyway, there was a few, not necessarily promises that have never been on. So that's why nobody's running. And
What's
then
the promises?
that they're going to stand down.
Oh.
Type of deal. Yeah.
And they did sit here and say that they would honor the volunteer ambulances.
I think a call to.
And the
Eagle
dispatcher
Ambulance.
would call the volunteer ambulances, and then if there was no response. So I don't know if they call all of them or what.
I don't know.
Dispatch goes out, it goes everywhere now.
Yeah.
How does it work?
Dispatch.
When dispatch, when somebody calls in and they call, you guys get the first call, or is it just once?
And see that, I don't know if they're actually getting the dispatch call, or are they on a scanner and getting it right off that, which is faster than us getting the dispatch. So, I don't know how they're set up to do that. So I can't talk intelligently about that.
But the commission could talk to Eagle Ambulance about that, that they agree that they would send them.
No.
So I get, yeah, that's just kind of our concerns as a whole. We had our meeting here, regular business meeting, and we just kind of wanted to know what was going on, because the one thing is like with our budget, basically, this is how we buy our supplies and stuff, is if we're not running, all that stuff's sitting in the ambulance, not doing anything. So end of the year, we gotta go throw everything away, because it's all expired, and then we gotta buy brand new stuff. I'd rather use it than not. But
Yeah, and your budget's is figured out anticipated revenue on runs. Too.
Right. Yep. So I guess that's kind of where I'm
I totally understand that, you know, we can definitely sit down and talk to them again, have a meeting with them, come in, some guy.
Any comments from the public? Zoom?
Kristen Norris, he's a new manager for Eagle, so we could have him come in. I guess got this stuff, I read the stuff last week. I'm not prepared back on this, Frank, but we could definitely call this guy and have him come in, we could have a meeting next week. We could put you on the agenda, come in and sit down and get this resolved.
That was it.
Right up to that, I mean, this. Great.
If I might, Eagle Ambulance representative was at our last LAC meeting, which was this past Thursday in fall. And he was open and said, hey, if you guys need any insights, if you want to have meetings, anything like that, I'm fully available. So, and that was the Eagle Ambulance representative that's based in Paul. He's a new individual. I'm pretty sure that's who it is. He's a new individual. But he said, let everyone know that we're accessible and we'll come in and talk about it. So I think it's probably a good time.
Well, I think we better, this is my personal opinion, I think we should put them on for next week, have them come in, have, I think everybody needs to be involved, this one here too, but it's better than whatever. But then we're all doing one meeting, one sit down, let's resolve. Is that all right?
Yeah.
That's the only way we're gonna do it, have a public meeting, have people come in.
Well, I hope a lot of people show up. Input, insight.
Well, it's a good thing about when you have it, you get other questions brought that we don't remember, don't know, and then you got stuff that was said, that, you know, hey, what about this, what about that? Are they in their contract, are they in the budget? No, they're not. They're on the- That's where I got a bunch of calls last night, how come they're paying? We weren't paying. And they're on their own, this ain't possible. Maybe down the line in years or whatever, if there's some kind of contract that there might be, but tell right now, no. Right?
I don't
Speaking
know if
out
there'd be
of
some
turn,
kind of contract, they're a private enterprise, and if they can't make a go of it, then
Well, if you're ever gonna dissolve the ambulance association, I think you'd want a
I
longer
don't
term
think we ever want
contract.
to do that. I know it's frustrating for these guys, but, you know. But then you gotta look at it this way too, that there's that option, that all of a sudden something happens, you can't make it, and they're there. And you know that, well,
Yep.
we've talked about this, and it's nothing again. I've never, ever said nothing about the volunteer. I appreciate what they're from the fire department, from everything. You guys, in your 12 years, I don't know how to thank you. And I mean, we've tried by steps, we've tried this other shit. You guys don't want that while you're there. So I'm not speaking for you, but that was the whole deal, that was to make it better, and I knew it was gonna hurt feelings. And it has, it frustrated people, like I said, you can't believe it, as soon as I've done. This is my job, I know. Sometimes you gotta look at it the other way, is it gonna make it better? Like here, they didn't run the other day, in 15 minutes, they were up there, got Teresa Ruby's mom all the time. She said I could use it. She said, thank God. You know, I'm not, that's nothing to do with you.
Right, oh, I know.
But I'm just saying, if it didn't happen, I mean, by the time, you know, if it got you, who say you would have got the call, you never know.
Right.
There ain't no response back here. I guess what frustrates me. That's my opinion.
If I might. That past meeting I was referring to last Thursday, I would assume that Jackie's got the minutes to that. And so maybe you might want to contact her and get the minutes from that conversation. And in that conversation, they did indicate that they are going through dispatch.
Okay.
So we know that, but that doesn't mean that they're not also, in addition to that, scanning. Who knows? But I think that those minutes might be a little insightful. He was, he was pretty upfront about what was going on.
Right.
And he talked about their personnel and their rollover and this sort of thing, and then their shifts. So that's probably, most of that's probably contained within the minutes from that LADC meeting.
Okay, well, I got a couple things on there, but I didn't get the minutes, so. Maybe I'll call Jackie, or she's probably on there.
No, I don't have, I was the one taking the minutes.
Oh.
Jackie's got all of them. So if you want the minutes from the LEPC meeting,
And now,
Eagle
maybe
Ambulance
maybe a
mentioned.
person can get the minutes. Did you go to the meeting?
No.
Maybe a person, Bill.
Yeah.
Maybe a person can get the minutes too, right? So we
Yeah.
can read them over and see what went on too, and that way next week you're prepared.
I'll get it to you. Jackie's on.
Okay.
I don't know if she's around. I know sometimes she just doesn't meet.
That's something I mean to you. I mean, I
She's
think
on.
it just.
I think the more information, the better, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, so And I also know there has been occasion here recently on the Phillipsburg end, where Phillipsburg has responded and they have responded, they being Eagle, and essentially both were there on the site. I don't know how it all transpired beyond that, but that has occurred also. So, and I do recall the conversation here with respect to those guys saying, we have no problem getting information and getting out and turning around and going back. That's what they said. So I guess it's probably just, let's have another discussion about this. Make some sideboards on this.
Yeah, and I guess that'd be up to the man to tell them, right? It's not so bad to get ahead, but you hear that feel for the drum and it's been loud.
Right.
Stop and listen to call.
And they pointed it out. They said we have no problem turning around.
Here. So we decided to have another meeting.
I think we should. I really do. I think we should have this Chuck Norris. No?
Is that okay with you?
Yeah, that's fine with me. Around that year.
Because we're gonna have to move on from this one.
Well, it's numbers 408-710-8344. Name's Christian Norris. You can get my stuff from Billy, whatever. No, let's have another meeting, set it up for next week, give us at least an hour on it. Get the public come in.
Did you have any more comments?
I just saw Phillipsburg on the agenda.
Yeah.
But I don't know what we're gonna do because we can't go back to where we were. Except on your end was pretty good, but
I don't think it's the idea about going back where we were, it's what was said and done, and it's not being followed through. I think one of the biggest concerns is that they're
Yeah, they need the runs for their revenue
I'm
also.
not speaking. That's the way I feel. I think that can be a job pretty easy.
There's some things we can't discuss because it's. License laws, that we can't discuss. I'd like to, but I'm not gonna get into that.
Well, and it's like they were saying, well, if they already start out on it, they get paid. I have no idea how they get paid. That's one of my concerns, so I don't know if they get called out.
And who cares?
Yeah.
It's their own thing.
yeah. Okay, we're gonna have to move on.
Okay.
Thanks, everybody.
We'll get you out for next week.
Any public comment real quick?
Thanks.
Thank you.
Have a good one.
Yep. That it then. Nobody else?
Okay, now we're on the county policy and procedure manual.
That's it.
See ya.
They fix them, but nobody else.
So there was a couple more updates on this.
So are we through with the update?
I think so. I added on there the last two things that you wanted me to add that I sent you. What were they? I added the road bridge superintendent is on the matrix. And then the elected officials and deputies are the whole compensation board thing that I sent you.
And you got the superintendent?
Yep. And then I printed it double-sided, so it's not so.
Is the road superintendent, is that in this one or is that?
Yes.
And what page is that?
In the back. In the addenda, it's like page 70 something.
79?
79.
Eighth grade papers. Ever give us some more?
Start waiting here.
Okay, Granite County's classified pay grade tables, road and bridge. Where is
Right here?
it in here?
Oh, that's the old.
Okay, I want the road superintendent,
Yeah, didn't I?
how he
I
is.
gave you a new one, didn't I? Well, that's not this one. Here, look at mine.
Yes.
Right there, yeah.
So this kind of bothers me that has a potential to earn a 2% increase every other year based on satisfactory performance evaluations till here and beyond. I mean, you can't
I thought
just.
they were basing that on that cost of living, but it's not fair.
Well, I think that our superintendent's position is very well paid. And I don't think we can say earn a 2% increase every other year based on satisfactory performance. I think it needs to be
Up to the commission.
up to the commission, and also if would it be available for the cost of living, if we're going to give cost of living. Because if you're giving them a 2% raise every other year, you haven't up till now. And that's a big increase.
Who put this in?
I don't know.
I worked with Blaine on it.
So mine, and this is just
You're
draft.
treating it
language,
as matrix.
Draft language, but it'd be your guys' decision. But the road crew gets cost of living plus the step, so that was just thinking the step. You can just say, you could put in there, could negotiate periodic.
Well, he's
increases
a
or-
salaried position, and he would be like the elected official who is a salaried position, but we're subject to the compensation board, where he would be subject to the commission, but we can't say he's gonna get 2% every other year.
No,
Yeah, that,
I
yeah,
mean,
that's
you're-
not what I
yeah,
meant on
yeah.
it. It's your guys.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think
So how do you
that,
want me to word it?
I
you know,
think,
Blaine had something negotiated or.
Yeah, periodic raise. can be
I
negotiated
think,
with their-
when you have the position is not part of the matrix collective bargaining agreement, and it reports to the Granite County Commissioners. And I guess how would you word it? But I don't, I think 2% increase.
Periodic raises could be negotiated with the commissioner. You don't need to.
The position report to the Granite County Commissioners. I think you can end it right there if he wants to negotiate.
Okay.
What do you think, Scott?
Otherwise, it's guaranteed.
Yeah, guaranteed that he's gonna get it every year from here till eternity. Which that's not even a matrix, you get 2%.
We never know what.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, yeah, if that's okay.
Good.
Okay. Other than that, I think it's fine. There's something we saw.
So we're gonna make a motion to accept this with the changes.
And it's, no, because we've got the road gets 30 steps, the county gets 20. It's 20, not 15.
You got that?
There's 10 grades.
That's what I got last night. She pointed it out. Sorry.
So this.
Oh, do you have a comment on that? I haven't read it yet.
I forgot to read it.
I didn't want to comment on social media or anything like that.
Yeah, I didn't.
But this has nothing to do with the ground ambulance. We have no insight into this. I mean, it's just.
Well, Mr. White has come up with a proposal on the coordinator position and was frustrated with it, but yeah, it doesn't. It's nothing to do with the current status.
Exactly. I don't know why it was brought up to come in the meeting. So I just. Social media junk as far as.
Well, yeah, and the commission decided there wouldn't be a coordinator, so what's?
Yeah, just
He's
upset on
henpecking.
Facebook and venting, so yeah, nothing to do with it.
So
I
yeah,
just sent you a bit, no bit.
yeah.
I don't.
They should.
Oh.
But I just thought it was null and void as far as I was.
Thanks.
Okay, so we should table this again till
Next week.
next week.
Sorry.
No, good.
So all you in favor of tabling it till next week?
I.
No.
I.
Okay.
Okay. And I got those two things changed, so.
I guess in an email that happened.
Yeah, well, it's not in one person.
So it's actually the matrix has
Do I need
20
my-
steps.
Yeah.
This is,
So I have that 20 steps.
no, they have 10 steps. And every other year they get a raise, so it's 20 years that they can.
So I need to have that St. County's 10 steps.
Yeah,
That's.
and
That's.
so the road, they get a step every year. And they have 30 years where, so they don't have 30, I guess they do have 30 steps.
We haven't had nothing come in for a while.
There's gonna
That
be
should
one
be at
coming in
certain-
soon.
Should be at certain times, you know, when their time comes up, there should be.
So when usually the clerk and recorder, payroll clerk does know when they're up for the evaluation. They're supposed to notify the supervisor is supposed to do the evaluation. And then it's a courtesy to submit it to us. And
Then it goes, then they sign it.
And they
In case
sign
there's
it, so,
comments, and it goes in there.
yeah.
Okay, we're moving on.
Okay,
Sorry. Didn't want to give that up.
yes, sir.
Okay, now it's time for resolution 2021-158 Granite County resolution setting Granite County's 2021, 2022 budget year, including salaries of all Granite County and elected officials, deputies, and cost of living increase for county employees, second reading and adoption.
So we need to set a motion on it, right?
Hmm?
This is the week that we do the motion on it. We'll make the motion on resolution 2021-15. Accept and adopt.
I second.
Any discussion? Any public discussion? Dick?
I would like to comment on the budget as far as the procedures that the county uses in order to prepare the budget and present it to the public. For all practical purposes, you really didn't comply with hardly any of the procedures on presenting the budget and approving the budget. When I look at the preliminary budget, you didn't give published notice on that. You did give published notice on the meeting to be held on the 8th and the 9th of September, but there was no published notice for the original preliminary hearing. As far as the budgets were concerned, I think you had several problems with that. At that preliminary budget hearing, you presented the information on the expenditures, but there was nothing presented on the revenues for that fund, so the people didn't really know what you were talking about. You kind of tend to use the rationale that the figures are available in the clerk and recorder's office, but that is not what supposed to happen. You're having the meeting, and the information should be available to the public at the meeting. The public, for the projected changes in the budget, you're looking at the ability of the commissioners to ask questions and for the taxpayers to ask questions. Without having knowledge of the information, there's just no way for the public to have a meaningful participation in the process. As far as other things are concerned, there was no projection for the fund balances or cash balances. There was never a detailed list of the capital expenditures. There was no presentation of the debt obligations by the county treasurer. There were no there was no estimated amount to be raised by the tax. As far as the salaries are concerned in the budget resolution, you said one line, it says, we're going to approve the budget, and then you spend 2.5 pages to define what all of the salary increases are going to be for the public officials. In my estimation, that the salary committee should have submitted a report to the commissioners, and in fact, the commissioners should have reviewed that. The people should have been able to review that a long time ago. There was nothing published on the website for that. So I think that you've been totally deficient in terms of what you presented to the public as far as the budget has been presented. Well, I think that for all practical purposes, you haven't even complied with the time limit on the budgets, and I should think of any future budgets, you should comply at having the meeting sometime in early August as opposed to late August, because the budgets are due the first Tuesday after the first Thursday of September. So I think that the whole presentation was just totally inefficient, insufficient, and that you should probably even consider the possibility of redoing the budget and making a presentation to the public.
Okay, thanks, Dick. Any other comments? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, now we're going into, well, the next 3 agenda items. We're advised by the attorney in Mako to have them non-public. And I guess it's up to us, but
I think where it's being a lot concerning and stuff. I would understand some of the time we're saying something out that they can take the full.
right.
And then we'll open it up to everything.
Yeah, it's good advice. It's litigation strategy. That's my advice to you.
So we're all in favor of having closed meeting.
We'll make moves.
It's a comment by a layman.
On this? On this, or what?
I don't know.
By
Oh,
who?
she took her hand down.
Elaine?
She took her hand down. So I don't know.
Okay, so I guess it'll be closed.
It's back up.
So when you make your decision, and it could be opened back up, you can take public comment. Yeah, after motion, public comment.
Make the motion.
That's what it's about.
Okay, we're back on, we've had two claims and I'll take a motion on the first one is the Bieber claim. You know, someone want to make a motion, we're denying.
Make the motion that we deny the claim.
I'll second it.
Is there any public comment? No, Elena, do you have a comment on this motion?
Okay, so 11:05 to 11:15, you were discussing the letter,
Yes,
and then now you're going to discuss what the claim was?
should we go through the whole thing?
So we
But
discussed all three items.
Yeah.
We discussed all three items.
Two claims we discussed.
two claims you discussed. Discussion is the
you
claim
read-
that you received on the 14th. That would be the discussion, wouldn't it? Not mitigation strategy. Why was that close? To discuss what the claims were and explain them.
You talked to our attorney at Mako.
Well, he's there, isn't he?
No.
Oh,
The
he
other
left.
attorney, the Mako attorney.
No, what? They're suing, okay, so is Mako there?
No, but it was their recommendation.
Their recommendation, right. Who's paying for this?
Well, Granite County has insurance, Elena. And
And it's
yeah,
against the county.
correct, yes.
And an explanation of both these is not warranted.
If you have any questions, I'll answer them right now.
No, I think it should have been explained what these two claims are about, at least. That we're getting sued.
Was it online? Was it?
Yes.
It was online. You probably read it, didn't you?
Well, what if I was there? What if somebody didn't read it?
Well, what if? I mean, what if? I mean, you can't say that. I mean,
And what if I didn't make a big stink about it last week? It wouldn't have put on. They should have been put on before the 14th as correspondence. You know, as far as transparency, this is really terrible the way you handle things. It really is for the public. The public also pays for the insurance to make it. And that's my point.
It was online.
That's my point for the record. It's the public who's paying for this stuff. It's not coming out of your pockets, and therefore we should have a little bit more information if it involves, yeah, legal strategy is one thing, but to have a discussion online about these cases is definitely another one. I read it, but I didn't hear you discuss anything about the letters. That's for the record.
I don't think we can discuss it.
You don't?
All right.
Well, then I hope you're taking it out of your pocket to pay for it. Thank you.
We can explain it or whatever, but as far as your, your litigation strategy, that was fine to close that.
Yeah, litigation is one thing, but as far as, and no, there was no discussion about what happened. There was no discussion on that.
But it was online.
You got people that are calling in.
You're the only one that has.
Okay.
Okay, thanks, Elena. Dick, I guess that's you.
Under what provision of MCA 2-3-203 are you closing the meeting at 11 o'clock? Is that personal privacy or litigation strategy?
litigation strategy.
11:05.
How can you define this as a litigation strategy when the commissioners aren't involved in this?
It's claims against the county is exactly what it is, litigation.
Well, where on the website was the notice of the litigation posted?
Under the meeting document.
Well, yeah, the document, what makes this a litigation strategy hearing? Was there anything about the litigation posted on the website?
Yes, all the documents.
Documents?
Documents.
What's the reference in the documents of what documents?
Just going on and on. Thanks.
The claim letters are in there. That's all. That's the only information we have is those claim letters.
Well, I guess he's done. So any other comments?
Could you explain to me, I just want to know so that I understand.
I can't hear you.
It's being denied because.
You have to come up and state your name and make your comment.
My name is Melody Saxey, and I want to make it clear, clear in my own mind that this is being denied, is my understanding, because of a litigation strategy. Is that saying that the attorney is doing this on purpose to help our case?
To help your case.
Yeah, well, Mr. Morrison's case.
No,
It's not Mr. Morrison. He's not suing the county.
No, he's not, but they are suing, the Beavers were accosted on Mr. Morrison's property, on the easement, and they were frightened and threatened.
And they're suing the county because of it.
They wouldn't file anything against the individual. We went to the sheriff's office, they went to the sheriff's office, and they tried to claim or put in a filing, and it was refused. It said they were told that it would go nowhere.
The county commission doesn't believe they're valid claims. It's nothing to do with strategy. It's just they don't believe they're valid civil claims.
Okay, thank you.
All those in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 So we can mention that for each letter, we're denying each claim.
That was just on the first one. So
First
we
one.
need a motion on the hand.
Now we need a motion to send a letter denying the hand.
Denying
Claim.
any county, that the county has any claim against.
That
If there's any
they have a
claim
claim
against
against
the
the county.
county.
Correct.
We don't feel there's any claim against the county. Does that help you in your explanation?
That's theirs. This is the hand.
So and then it's will go to litigation probably, but we're saying Granite County doesn't have any. You have no claim against Granite County is what the commissioners feel.
No, we already voted on that.
So I knew there was a new motion on the hand one, I think.
Yeah, the new motion is for the hand.
Oh, okay. Good. So the hand is before the Beavers, No, the PCT claim is after.
You've already done the beaver, so this is just the hand.
This is just the hand. So we need a motion
I
to,
make a motion that Granite County There's no claim against Granite County with the PCT claim,
We just deny the claim.
deny the claim.
Is there any public comment on the hand letter?
Oh, Anna has comment.
Elena?
Okay, just for clarification, so you're also denying this one? So you're denying both claims and you're sending letters regarding both?
That's right.
And will the letters be online?
Yes.
When will they be online?
As soon as we sign them and she gets to it, puts them on there.
It should have been the draft already online. If you've got them, it should have been online also. It should have been watermarked draft. That's what it should have been. Since you're signing them now, the public should have had a copy of it. For the record.
Any other public comment? Better read it.
Yeah, you can read it.
We have reviewed your claim filed for Ms. Ashley Hand and discussed it at the county commission. We have voted to deny the claim. Please correspond to the county attorney, Maureen Lennon, at 406-441-5471 with any questions. So all those in favor? say
Aye.
Aye. Guess we're off until 11:45. Okay, we're back on for commissioner meeting in Zoom platform audio versus video streaming. And I brought this up. I'm tired of not being treated like a person with that camera right up there. And you know, you can't yawn, you can't smile, you get criticized, and that's not right. And then the people doing the criticizing are behind the black screen. Okay, fair is fair. So I'm gonna make a motion that we get rid of, we aren't videotaped if we don't want to be. If somebody wants to be individually like you or sometime me, or we can be, or the public can be to us. We will still use Zoom, we'll still use all the audio.
Okay, I disagree with you. I think that our platform needs video and audio because it's easier to assure transparency. And a picture speaks louder than words. And we are public officials. We are in the public eye. We are going to get comments on, should we smile? Oh, you yawned. And that's just something that we have to, okay, sorry, I yawned.
No, I have
And-
to say
No,
sorry.
may I finish, please? I think that our feelings get hurt if they're making a public comment against us, but we need to have that transparency. And also there was a comment emailed to me on how supposedly we, our video, she has another person, well, I guess I'm gonna say it was Elena. She sent me a video and she said that, have you ever checked out a friend of hers? And her version is uncut and unmuted. Well, so is our version uncut and unmuted. And I feel there's more people that get on here and watch this, and we need to be on there. If you don't want your private screen on, fine. I think we need Billy's platform. The screen needs to be on for the public to see us in our meetings, whether we yawn, whether we laugh, or whether we smile. If they don't like it, okay, we'll take it under consideration and try not to yawn or smile, which, by the way, I watched last week's and you did yawn, but guess what? We weren't saying anything. It was during a private, it was during, I know it, exactly. That's what I'm trying to get at. There was no reason to make the comment that you yawned. We were sitting here, we weren't discussing anything. It was between agenda items, and I noticed that you yawned. Another thing with, and let me finish with at the end of the meeting last week, Billy's went off, and there was just a cartoon picture on there. It was very confusing to understand the audio part of it.
What went off?
The presentation.
My webcam would work. I was
Oh.
wondering, is it because I use your account and you were on Zoom at the same time, do you think? Or do you think it was just because it's computer?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes there's glitches in Zoom. I would have been off by like roughly 2:30. What time did they have?
It was just like, we were just on from like 1 to 1:20.
Should be able. It shouldn't have been anything about being on the.
It might have just.
Well,
been
it was just, there was a
a
glitch. Hers went down, and so all there was audio. And this big cartoon thing came up, or little ball, little head. A computer cartoon, I guess, and all it was audio. And it didn't make any sense at all. So that's what I'm saying.
So why should these people be on a black screen? We can't see them.
Well, that's their right, but it's not our
Well,
right.
no, yeah, it
We
is
are-
our right. They can come in there just like these two people come in here.
I know, but
They can
there's-
come in here and sit there and watch it.
There's no sense getting all angry about it. It's
Oh, I'm gonna
something,
get
this
angry.
is the thing. You're a public official, you're in the public eye. We need to show ourselves complete
The
transparency.
legislature has
You
audio
said-
only.
Can I finish, please?
Yeah, they do. Audio only over in the legislature. Some of them
Well,
are,
we're not the legislature.
well,
We
so
agreed
we
to
don't
this
have
platform.
to.
Well, I say no. I say we do.
I'm with Chuck, because I don't like it sometimes that we've had to look at.
That's ridiculous.
Well, it's.
No, go ahead. Sorry.
There's times that we've had to look at Blaine and try to figure out, and then they come up with comments and say, "Ooh, you don't know what's going on. You can't even look or do nothing."
What do you mean?
Like when we've had to, there'll be a question, we look at Blaine, and she'd make comments or they make comments or, well, you don't know. I mean, no, I think, what's wrong with this video? And then, like I said, if you want to be on, you can be on.
What do you mean just video?
Audio.
You can't hear.
Just
No, audio. I mean,
You
You
can't
have to have audio.
video picture is louder than words. You can't really even, you're looking at a blank screen and hearing audio.
And
It's
that's
not
my
as good at-
objection.
May I finish?
Yeah, you're talking all the time.
I know, but it's my turn to comment. When I'm trying to finish, all I'm saying is that we are public officials and we need to be in the public eye. And that platform works really well. If you don't want your personal one on, I understand it, but I think the public needs to see the three of us conversing. If they don't like what they say or what we say, then okay, make your comment, deal with it.
They can hear us conversing.
Well, no, they can't understand. The picture in words is just not as good as the video and.
But we
the
gotta
audio.
listen to them. We can't see them. We can't see their,
They're not an elected official.
One
oh,
thing I'd say is, it's your guys' decision whether it's audio or not, but I think, if people are starting to like, if there's personal attacks coming on, I would just encourage the muting of them earlier on. I think that potentially will help resolve some of the issue. As far as someone like being able to call in, I like that, so I don't think you should require for potentially for them to be on, but you're just more talking about whether you're gonna be on video. Is that the
Right.
same?
He doesn't want to be on video anymore.
And that'd be your guys', the commission's decision.
public comment, Elena.
Thank you. And I have to agree with Blanche. You are all public figures. And you know who I am when I speak, Elena Gagliano. It's right there. And then you have other people that speak and you don't ask them to identify themselves, but they start speaking. That's just a side point. You're public officials. And just like Blanche says, you put up with it. Okay. I have the First Amendment. I can criticize government. That's there. And as far as the legislature is concerned, I've attended their Zoom meetings. And they don't mute anything. You can hear them and you can see them, even if they're attending remotely. So they don't silence anything. And you see them because they are elected officials. And that's what you are. All three of you. And so I don't think you have a personal choice that you don't want your picture up. Sorry, we've got the First Amendment. And I'm sure you all know what that is. I know Blanche does. And so that's what I have to say for the record. And I'm sorry, Mr. Chair, Mr. Hinkle, if it bothers you so much. Maybe you should resign. I'm just saying, okay?
Hey, maybe I
If it
should.
bothers you that much.
One thing, Elena, the First Amendment wouldn't require them to have video on there. That's yeah.
Exactly. I mean,
I understand what you're saying about the public figure and transparency.
Well, maybe I should
But you could
clarify.
come in here, Elena, you can come
Maybe
in
I
here,
should
sit right there.
clarify. Maybe I should clarify something then. The annotated Constitution is different, and it does mention video, remote hearings, and stuff like that. So it is there. And as far as what you put online, Blanche, I kind of disagree with you on that one, because what you put on the authorized version, it's really choppy. There's nobody says, okay, this is the next agenda item. Sometimes you hear it, sometimes you don't, because the recording is off. And so there's no fluency. All of a sudden you start discussing something and we don't know what you're talking about. And we're getting closer and closer to a major problem with this COVID coming back. And it's going to start again where there's going to be remote viewing big time. And that's the way it's going to be. Unfortunately, that's the way it's going to be. So.
Make a motion that we table it for next week, because there's a couple of things I want to call check on. Now that I have a couple other comments. It's up to you. That's my motion. It's not that, I don't know. So there's a couple little things that I guess we'll say.
Okay, we'll table it. But what did we do before COVID? Hey, come on, there's no law that we have to do this. You know, we did it to help out during COVID, but still, if we're online with audio, that's still helping out. You still have your First Amendment right. You can say anything you want to. I mean, it's a joke. This whole thing's a joke. So, table?
Okay.
Yep.
See, you can see you do that.
Yeah. Elena?
Okay, thank you. I'm glad you're tabling it till next week. It's not a joke. I'm sorry. It is not a, I'm sorry, what?
I did.
Thank you. And I just said it's not a joke. I'm not indicating which one of you said that. I said it's not a joke. And So I'm glad you're gonna think about it again. And what we did before COVID is we were there in person. And you didn't, neither the commissioners or anybody else had your own iPads that were purchased specifically for these meetings. And then there's that other program, COPP, for an emergency where everybody can attend meetings and have continued government business without having to be in the courthouse. And that should include the public. Thank you.
Okay, now we're moving on to correspondence. We got one from Republic, solid waste, and the dumping fees are going up to $800 a pole. No, 800 for Drummond, and Phillipsburg, 881 every time.
It is, disposal is $36.95 per ton. That's from.
Like this. Passing along their diesel costs going up.
Well, I think so, it was kind of come out over, like yesterday, went up 10 cents. Diesel. See what was.
So one thing I want to say during correspondence is that I was in the wrong. There was things that I just let slip by and I didn't pay too much attention, which was that meeting that they had on the 31st. And I didn't really know anything about it. And I looked at the agenda and I signed it and let it slip on by. Afterwards, getting more information on it, I understand what it was. We still don't know why that they decided to have a meeting after so many years, unless it was the drought. So I think our correspondence, and I think we all agree that we're going to look at our correspondence. We'll get our emails, the emails that come in, we will look at, we'll respond to during correspondence. And if you request an answer, then we'll do it during that correspondence.
Vicky's gonna look it up because we signed a contract and I just want to see when our contract's up or whatever before they can up that. So Vicky's gonna look it up.
Okay.
Okay.
Here we go, one public health flu COVID clinics.
I should have, I didn't say
Say
it.
that. Public health, flu and COVID. Get your flu shots. Okay, I acknowledge this. Oh, and I smiled.
Here's one final statewide transportation improvement program from Vision Zero. To go online or to view the final STIP online, go to www.mdt.mt.gov/public involvement/STIP dot whatever. In case you want to know.
You're throwing stuff.
Here's one, here's from the meeting from the Dam Advisory Committee. And basically they're telling us after October 15th to decrease the outflow. And a few other things.
I think there's another recommendation in there too. I think they want you guys to appoint some irrigators.
Be an agenda item.
What's that?
Sound like they want to point irrigator, you'd have that as an agenda item to notice that.
So this is
We're decreasing the,
their minutes from August 31st.
yeah.
They're wanting you to appoint also some members.
Oh,
And as this is treated as correspondence, then it goes on to the website for them to view or, okay.
They may want to have that, the appointment as an agenda item.
how many did they say?
Two.
I want to say it's two.
And the next one is the email answer to Elena on that meeting. I think it was. And Elena wants a written letter. Do you want to write a letter or just email?
Sure. I thought we answered that. I don't think we did.
We answered it last week.
Because we got it that day, we did, you know, made it slip last and now we're doing it different, we're trying to make it better.
So one
I think
thing,
this is a good.
one thing with correspondence, when we get an email and we review it on the day of our agenda, that means that it doesn't go on the website till after we review the correspondence.
It's, yeah, so.
Because we can't put it on before because we haven't reviewed it yet. Is that how it works?
Well, and I guess the issue too is like on draft letters, if you want them put on there, because it's just a draft letter. So that's the commission's decision on it.
Typically, I like to put your correspondence on after the meeting, so it's stamped received. But if you want me to do it different, I can.
No, I think this is good, stamping the correspondence. Our initial complaint was that we're not reading our correspondence. And we are going to do a better job, right, Chairman? Yeah.
Public comment.
Yeah, my name's Roger Pippins, my wife Tina. We manage Harvey Creek Ranch up on the north end of the county. And we are requesting a cattle guard on Mullen Road. We've requested it a couple times before in 2016. I think we were pretty close to getting it. And you guys requested a map. Got the map today, but it's a clear cut situation where the cattle guard goes. It's a boundary between beaver livestock and ourselves on Mullen Road. We've marked it for the road superintendent numerous times.
Yeah, what's
You want down by your gate, that goes up to your
We
driveway.
don't need we don't need a cattle guard on the gate. We want it on the
No, I
property.
didn't say that. I said you wanted it down.
Yeah, down on that.
We want it on property boundaries with weavers, you know, like, yeah. Weavers property boundaries, go see those aspen trees, ours is right there with it, there's a fence line, and marked it. All.
And he's under his recommendation, when he brought that in, he was not wanting to put another cattle guard in, due to the fact that we have so much trouble with the cattle guard, and we got all around the county. We just took two out up here. It's,
I understand. I guess he told me it was, he thought it was open range in there. And then the last time it was brought up, you know, Mr. Slaughter and yourself said that you understood we wanted it at the end of our driveway, and yet Mark Tag told you right there and then, because we're all meeting on County Road looking at the fish culvert. But no, we wanted it on the boundary. You know, Weaver's put in, you know, 80 to 100 cows in the spring and fall over there. We have 2 gates, and so the cows come right in our gates. And, you know, it's not their property, it's not Weaver's. I talked to Vicky on the way here. She has no objection to the cattle guard going in.
And there's one on the other side already, so it makes sense. There's one on, yeah, on the east end, so it makes sense that you put one on the west side to keep the cattle from grazing, and it's not open range. And they don't keep their cattle in, so we need to keep theirs out, that's the law.
There's no way we can keep
Blaine?
no way we can keep theirs out.
I was just gonna say, I think you'd have discussion like you're doing today, but this would need to be on.
Yeah, I
agenda
think of
for a decision.
or just public
Here.
comment, we take the comment.
Here you go.
Put it on the agenda, just call it out on the agenda.
It's been, you know, it's been a topic many times. You know, I had Paul Altsworthy get back with me this spring, and it took like 3 weeks to get back mean, said that you guys, the commission decided not to do it.
Under his recommendation.
So anyhow, the cattle will be coming in soon is the issue. So. Time is of the essence.
Do you want to add it on Paul's time?
It'll be on next Tuesday at 9, you see back on it, like 9 p.m.
Yeah, he'll be on.
Can we join via Zoom?
Yep. I'll be, make it your guys' email address.
Zoom transfer here.
So, and if maybe Paul doesn't realize that there is a problem with cattle coming onto your property.
I think he should explain it to him, Roger.
I think he realizes that. I mean, they come in our yards and tear up their yards. They get into our haystacks, they cause, we raise bucking bulls, Last thing we need is cows right inside our corrals, alongside our corrals. We don't turn our bucking bulls out on the county road. We don't turn our cows out on the county road. It's pretty clear cut situation. I'm getting tired of getting stonewalled. Causes a lot of grief.
And I
Tina
think
and
we've been
myself.
there 10 years and I can remember them cleaning that cattle guard on the east side out one time and fixing it twice. So I don't see that it's.
Do we plow that road?
Yeah, it's a major road. Yeah, we followed it. They go down and make the trip down.
Yeah,
We'll
we come back.
film on that, then when they come back, and it depends on who's there, but they usually get it come down, go do the rest, and then come back, get it on the rest of the way.
Well, it
If
has-
there's enough snow,
Yeah, the guy that does the Rock Creek one has been doing that. He comes down one side, turns right, goes down there, does his stuff, comes back.
So it's a hassle then to have a cattle guard there. is
That's what
that
he
what-
said, yeah.
Sometimes it might be
But
a
I'll
hassle.
talk- I'll
yeah.
talk to him, we'll have him in here,
Yeah.
he can, defend himself, so
Right.
we're not.
Right,
'cause he's-
understandable, yeah.
Is the expense an issue of it or more just?
Well, they'll have to fence off from the cattle, they'll have to be up to them guys, and you gotta have a side gate and stuff to let stuff through, or if you can't, then we have to figure out. It's not just throw one in, there's a lot to it.
But in reality, there's no side gates on any of the other ones. There's no fencing leading
There
up.
is a side gate
Yeah,
on
there's a
the
side
east
gate on
one
the east
on
one.
our property, there's a side gate down by.
Just a barbed
Converse.
wire gate.
Yeah,
That's all I'm
just.
saying, it don't have to be up there. I didn't say that.
We plan on putting one in on the side that we put in. The gate will go right next to the cattle guard, right where we're on a common boundary with beavers. We'll put that in ourselves. Like I said, I talked to Vicky on the way here.
And they're okay.
Okay, thanks.
So 9 AM.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
9 AM next Tuesday.
Okay, we'll
Oh,
join
yeah.
via the Zoom, I guess.
Yeah.
We'll join via the Zoom.
Yeah, she'll send it to Zoom
Yep.
info.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. You get dealed up, Tina?
Slowly, I'm off the crutches, so that's a good thing.
Oh, I had let Patrick Little know about the meeting earlier and he had work and so I couldn't say, I said Zoom, he said couldn't do Zoom.
I let it
So both of us.
you go.
I text.
Ah, so you go.
Minutes.
Minutes. Do we have any more public comment?
Oh, the past one.
12:15. Oh,
Okay,
what time it is?
any more public comment?
I don't know.
I guess one thing on the public comment, what he brought up is, I talked to the owners a while ago, and they were against it, because there's so much traffic back there. It's a narrow road already, and they get in corner, and when people come up, portion. And all, we've been trying to get away from cattle guards because it's just killing, because they sink and we hit, that's how we keep bending rams and break and stuff. And I mean, it's just bringing a lot more maintenance. What Paul is saying. So, put that on the record. And I did, last time I talked to the joint owner, they didn't. Whether these guys got to cut a fence and stuff or shut the gates and cows, I don't know how the law reads.
Wonder, yeah, the other neighbors would come up too.
Oh, it's readers.
Yeah.
I'm gonna hold it there, and, we can get over it. I guess, and when we was down there before, it's like, hey, we didn't. Conflict for years, it's just, I understand their frustration with cows going in the yard. But I don't know what to do with stuff like that. Austin County, put in cattle guard, maintenance.
Fence their yard, and that's one.
They got a gate there, so they put that, they've got a gate on the other driveway, so the cows can't go in. But I think, that's why I'm saying, well, can't you put a cattle guard in yours? And we said, no. On top of that, he's all the people with his own cattle, and then they won't go in. He wants them off that storage section.
Is that because they don't want the expense or what?
Well, if he has expense, it's gonna be, So that's just my, I'll get a hold of
Oops, I
Reavers.
smiled.
I'll have Bailey or whatever, I can call Vicky, she don't have to, but I can get a hold of her, let her know. And then she can represent herself, so it's not a hearsay, if she's saying yes, because I'm not different.
Or she could say if she can't come in, she could send a letter.
She got to take that. I don't.
Minutes,
I make a motion to accept the minutes. September 13th.
I second it.
all in favor, say aye. Aye. Let's adjourn.